The hotel ballroom buzzed with champagne toasts and proud parents filming their children. Noah stood at the podium under soft golden lights, his graduation cap tilted just right, his smile wide and confident. I held up my phone with shaking hands, tears already blurring my vision. My son, the boy I raised alone, was about to give his thank you speech. Then his smile changed. Something cold flickered across his face as he gripped the microphone tighter. "You know what's funny?" he said, his voice carrying across the room. "Some moms don't know when to stop smothering their kids. Mine still texts me goodnight like I'm 10 years old." Laughter rippled through the crowd. My phone nearly slipped from my hands. His friends in the front row started chanting, "Mommy's boy! Mommy's boy!" Noah grinned wider, feeding off their energy. He raised his hand to quiet them, then delivered the final blow. "But seriously, thanks, Mom, for teaching me exactly how not to live my life." The applause that followed felt like bullets. I stood frozen, my face burning as the room erupted. Then I saw him. Troy, my ex-husband, sitting at the back table, clapping slowly with a smirk I recognized from 100 arguments. Our eyes met across the ballroom, and he raised his glass to me. A toast to my humiliation. "My name is Lydia Hale. I'm 42 years old, a registered nurse at County General Hospital, and until last night I thought I knew my son. I raised Noah alone after Troy walked out when our boy was 10, leaving behind nothing but debt and a forwarding address to his secretary's apartment. I worked double shifts, skipped meals, wore the same scrubs until they fell apart. I did everything to give Noah the life I never had. Private school, summer camps, college prep courses, everything. The morning after the banquet, I woke up to 73 notifications on my phone. The video of Noah's speech was everywhere. Parents had posted it to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. The comments section was a firing squad. Poor kid probably needed to get that off his chest. Helicopter parents are the worst. She must be exhausting to live with. I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone until the screen went dark. Then a new message appeared from a parent I barely knew. Her name was Patricia, mother of one of Noah's classmates. The message was short. "I'm so sorry about what happened. But you should know he said much worse things before you even walked into the room." I recorded it. "Do you want to see?" Patricia sent me the full recording. I watched it alone in my living room with the blinds drawn and my hands clenched so tight my nails left marks in my palms. The video started 5 minutes before I arrived at the banquet. Noah was standing with a group of parents and students near the dessert table, laughing, performing. "You guys don't understand," he said, his voice clear and confident. "My mom brings homemade cookies to every single school event like we're still in elementary school. She's obsessed with being noticed, with being the hero mom everyone applauds." The group laughed. Someone said, "That's kind of sweet, though." Noah shook his head. "It's pathetic. She needs constant validation because she has nothing else in her life. No friends, no hobbies, just me. I'm her entire personality." My vision blurred. I had to pause the video. When I pressed play again, I heard another voice join the conversation. A voice I hadn't heard in person for months, but would recognize anywhere. Troy's voice, warm and encouraging from somewhere off camera. "That's my boy," he said. "Tell them the truth, son. You've earned the right to be honest." The video ended. I sat in the silence of my empty house and felt something inside me break cleanly in half. Not shatter. Break. Like a bone that's been fractured so many times it finally just snaps. I waited up for Noah that night. He came home past midnight smelling like beer and cologne, his tie loosened around his neck. I was sitting in the dark living room when he walked in. He jumped when he saw me. "Jesus, Mom, you scared me." I turned on the lamp beside me. "We need to talk about last night." He sighed, dropping his keys on the table. It was a joke, Mom. Everyone laughed. You're overreacting. I stood up slowly. You called me pathetic in front of the entire school. You told people I embarrass you, that I'm the reason you can't have a normal life. That wasn't a joke, Noah. That was cruelty. He rolled his eyes. You're being dramatic. It's what people do at senior banquets. Everyone roasts their parents a little. It's tradition. Roasting? My voice cracked. You humiliated me. You made me a punchline. He stared at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold. Distant. Maybe because you embarrass me every single day. The words hit harder than his speech had. We stood there in silence, the distance between us suddenly feeling like miles. Then he walked past me toward his bedroom. I'm going to pack a bag, he said without looking back. Dad said I can stay with him for a while. I think we both need space. He left me standing alone in the living room, the lamp casting long shadows across the walls. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. I walked to Noah's bedroom door and stood there, staring at the posters on his walls, the trophies on his shelves, the photos of us from years ago when he still smiled at me like I was his whole world. His cologne lingered in the air, mixed with the smell of resentment I couldn't wash out. I sat on his bed and let myself cry the way I hadn't cried since Troy left. Deep, shaking sobs that left me gasping for air. I cried until my ribs ached and my throat was raw. Then, somewhere in the exhaustion, a different feeling crept in. Not sadness, not heartbreak. Something colder and sharper. Enough. I was done being the punching bag, done being the joke, done sacrificing everything just to be treated like nothing. I wiped my face, stood up, and walked back to the living room. My phone was still on the coffee table where I'd left it. A new message lit up the screen. It was from Troy. Maybe this will teach you some boundaries, Lydia. Kid needs to breathe. Stop being so clingy. Stared at the message for a long moment. Then I deleted it without responding. If Troy wanted a war, he'd just declared one. And this time, I wasn't going to lose quietly. I thought back to the day Troy left. Noah was 10 years old, still small enough that I could ruffle his hair without him pulling away. Troy had been distant for months, staying late at work, taking calls in the garage, smiling at his phone in ways he'd stopped smiling at me. When I finally confronted him, he didn't even try to lie. I met someone else, he said, loading his suitcase into the trunk of his car. Someone who doesn't make everything so complicated. He drained our joint bank account on his way out. Took $18,000 we'd saved for Noah's college fund and left me with rent, utilities, and a child who kept asking when Daddy was coming home. I picked up every shift the hospital would give me. Worked nights, weekends, holidays. I wore the same winter coat for 5 years because new clothes felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. But Noah never went without. Private school tuition paid on time, new shoes when he outgrew the old ones, birthday parties with cake and decorations. Every time he asked about his father, I smiled and said, "You'll understand when you're older, sweetheart." I thought I was protecting him. I thought I was doing the right thing. A coworker found me crying in the break room one afternoon. "You okay, Lydia?" I wiped my face and nodded. Then she said, "Hey, did you hear Troy started a podcast? Something about fatherhood and resilience." My blood went cold. I found the podcast that night. It was called Building Better Men, and the description made my stomach turn. Join Troy Hale and his son Noah as they discuss overcoming toxic relationships, breaking free from control, and building authentic father-son bonds. I pressed play on the first episode. Troy's voice filled my headphones, smooth and practiced. "I had to make the hardest decision of my life," he said. "Leaving a toxic marriage to protect my son's mental health. It wasn't easy, but sometimes love means walking away from someone who's drowning you both." I felt sick. Then Noah's voice joined in, older now, confident. Growing up, I thought Mom's constant attention was normal. It took Dad to show me what freedom actually looks like. She was controlling. She made every decision for me. Dad taught me how to think for myself. I listened to the entire episode in my parked car outside the hospital. They painted me as the villain, the overbearing mother, the manipulative ex-wife, the woman who couldn't let go. Every story was twisted. Every sacrifice I'd made erased or reframed as obsession. When the episode ended, a sponsor ad played. This episode is brought to you by Forge Men's Line, premium grooming products for the modern father. Use code NOAH for 15% off. Noah's name. They were monetizing my son's name, monetizing his hatred of me. I screenshotted everything. 3 days later, a local news outlet ran a feature story. The headline read, "Local Father and Son, the Perfect Duo." The photo showed Troy and Noah standing side by side in matching navy blue shirts, arms crossed, both smiling at the camera with identical, confident expressions. The caption underneath, "Rising star Noah Hale and his mentor dad Troy prove that strong family bonds can overcome any obstacle." I read the article 3 times. It praised Troy's courage in leaving a difficult marriage to prioritize his son's well-being. It quoted Noah saying, "My dad saved me from a really unhealthy environment. He taught me that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family." There was no mention of me except as the boys passed. I zoomed in on the photo, studying the background. They were standing in front of a lake, pine trees visible behind them. I recognized that lake. It was 2 hours north, a campground Noah told me he was visiting with a friend 6 months ago. He'd lied. He'd been with Troy, building this new narrative, this new life where I didn't exist except as the obstacle they'd heroically overcome. I saved the article to a folder on my computer. Then I started a new document and titled it simply, Evidence. The humiliation followed me to work. I was checking a patient's vitals when the woman's daughter looked up from her phone and squinted at my name tag. "Lydia Hale?" she said. "Are you the ex-wife from that podcast? The one who, wouldn't let her son have any freedom?" The room went silent. My patient stared at me with new suspicion. I felt my face burn. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said quietly, finishing the blood pressure reading and marking it on the chart. The daughter scrolled on her phone. "Yeah, it's you. My boyfriend listens to that show. He said the dad had to basically rescue his kid from his crazy controlling mom." I left the room without responding. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall and tried to steady my breathing. My supervisor found me there 20 minutes later. She was a kind woman named Angela, someone I'd worked with for 8 years. "Lydia, can we talk in my office?" she asked gently. I followed her, already knowing what was coming. She closed the door and gestured for me to sit. "Someone filed a complaint," she said carefully, "about your professionalism. They said you seemed distracted, that you might be dealing with personal issues that are affecting your work." I stared at the floor. "I understand," I said. She reached across the desk and squeezed my hand. "Take some time if you need it. But Lydia, whatever's happening, don't let them destroy you." My sister Vera called me that night from 3 states away. "I've been doing some research," she said without preamble. "Troy's buying followers, Lydia, thousands of them, and the comments on his posts? Half of them are bots. I checked the accounts. They're all fake." She sent me screenshots, page after page of generic praise. "Such an inspiring story. Best dad ever. Your son is so lucky." All posted by accounts with 0 followers, no profile pictures, stock photo backgrounds. Then she sent me something else. A comment from someone with a real profile. A teacher. Noah's teacher. Her comment under one of Troy's posts read, "It's wonderful to see Noah thriving. His mother never supported his dreams the way you do. You're giving him the life he deserves." I felt the air leave my lungs. This was the same teacher who'd smiled at me during parent conferences, who'd thanked me for volunteering at the book fair, who'd shaken my hand at graduation. She'd been listening to Troy's Poison and believing it. How many others had? "Vera," I said slowly, "I need you to help me find something. Anything that proves he's lying." My sister's voice was steel. "Already on it. And Lydia? We're going to bury him." I requested a meeting with Noah's teacher the following week. Her name was Helen Carr, and she'd taught his senior English class. We met in her empty classroom after school, the desks arranged in neat rows, inspirational posters covering the walls. She seemed nervous the moment I walked in. "Mrs. Hale," she said, folding her hands on her desk. "What can I do for you?" I sat down across from her. "I saw your comment on my ex-husband's social media, the one about me not supporting Noah's dreams." Her face flushed. Well, Mr. Hale mentioned that you'd been resistant to Noah's independence, that you struggled with letting him grow up." I kept my voice calm. "Did he tell you I worked 2 jobs to keep Noah in this school? That I paid for every college application, every prep course, every opportunity he had?" She shifted uncomfortably. "He said you were unstable, that Noah had to distance himself for his own mental health. I'm sorry, I just assumed—" "You assumed I was the problem because that's the story he sold you." She looked down at her hands. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She slid it across the desk to me. "Check the school scholarship fund records," she whispered. "Something doesn't add up." I spent the next 3 days digging through public records and archived emails. The scholarship fund Troy had been bragging about online, the one he claimed he'd personally founded to help underprivileged students, wasn't his creation at all. The initial funding came from a charity drive organized by County General Hospital. My hospital. I'd been the one who reached out to local businesses for donations, who'd organized the fundraiser, who'd connected the hospital's community outreach program with the school. Troy had done nothing but show up to the ribbon-cutting ceremony and smile for the cameras. Now he was using that fund, that work, as proof of his generosity, as proof that he was the good parent, the involved father. I found emails where he'd introduced himself to donors as the founder of the scholarship program. Found social media posts where he thanked people for believing in his vision. Found articles that quoted him saying, "This fund represents everything I value, giving back, supporting youth, building community." My name appeared nowhere. I'd been erased from my own work. I compiled every email, every receipt, every photo from the original fundraiser. I organized them by date and built a timeline that showed exactly who'd done what and when. Then I sat back and stared at my computer screen. This wasn't just manipulation, this was theft. Theft of credit, theft of reputation, theft of truth. Noah came by the apartment to pick up more of his things. I was waiting for him in the living room. The folder of evidence spread across the coffee table. He walked in without knocking, earbuds in, barely glancing at me. I pulled one earbud out of his ear. "We need to talk." He sighed. "Mom, I'm in a hurry." I shoved the receipts toward him. "Your father is using my name, my work, my charity contacts to build his fake reputation. This scholarship fund he's bragging about? I organized it. I raised that money. He showed up for 10 minutes and took all the credit." Noah glanced at the papers. "So? You're jealous because Dad's actually doing something meaningful and you're stuck working at the same dead-end job." I slammed my hand on the table so hard the lamp rattled. "I am not jealous. I am tired of being erased. I am tired of being the villain in a story he wrote to make himself look good. Noah stared at me with something like pity. You're spiraling, Mom. You sound paranoid. I stood up, my whole body shaking. No. I'm finally done being quiet. He grabbed his bag and walked toward the door. Whatever. I'll come back when you're rational. The door slammed behind him. I stood alone in the living room and made a decision. If they wanted to play dirty, I'd show them what clean truth looked like. I created an anonymous email account. The username was simple: Night Nurse 42. Then I drafted a message to a small investigative blogger who'd built a reputation for exposing social media fraud. Her name was Simone Torres, and her blog was called Unmasked. I attached every document I had: the emails, the receipts, the donation records, the screenshots of Troy's fake followers and bot comments. I wrote, "A local influencer is using stolen charity work to build a fake reputation. He's monetizing his son's trauma and manipulating public sympathy for profit. I have proof. Will you investigate?" I stared at the draft for 10 minutes before hitting send. 2 hours later, Simone replied, "This is explosive. Give me a week to verify everything. If it checks out, I'll publish. Are you prepared for the fallout?" I typed back, "I've been preparing my whole life." 3 days later, Troy posted a new video on his social media. He was sitting in his home office, looking directly into the camera with a practiced expression of wounded dignity. "You know what's hard?" he said. "Building something good and watching bitter people try to tear it down. Some people can't stand to see others succeed, especially when those people are ex-wives who never moved on." The comments flooded in. "Stay strong, Troy. Haters gonna hate? Your ex sounds toxic." I watched the video twice. Then I smiled. He had no idea what was coming. Simone's blog post went live on a Tuesday morning. The headline was stark: "Influencer Dad's Scholarship Scam: How Troy Hale Stole Credit for Charity Work." The article was thorough, methodical, devastating. It included screenshots of my original emails to donors, photos from the hospital fundraiser with me clearly visible organizing tables and greeting guests, and side-by-side comparisons of Troy's claims versus the documented timeline of events. By noon, the post had been shared 8,000 times. By evening, it was trending on 3 platforms. Troy called me at 6:15 that night, his voice shaking with rage. "You did this. I know it was you." I answered calmly, stirring pasta on the stove. "Prove it." "You sent those documents to that blogger. You're trying to destroy me because you can't stand that Noah and I have a real relationship now." I turned off the burner. "Troy, if your relationship with Noah is so real, why does it depend on lies?" He sputtered. "You're going to regret this, Lydia. You have no idea what you've started." "Actually," I said quietly, "I think I do." I hung up. Within an hour, Noah stopped responding to my messages. His social media went dark. Troy posted a vague statement about addressing false allegations and protecting his family from attacks. But the damage was done. People were asking questions now, real questions, and neither of them had good answers. 3 days later, I was at the hospital covering a double shift when the front desk transferred a call to the nurses' station. I picked up the phone absently, expecting a patient inquiry. Instead, I heard Noah's voice. He was crying. "Dad, they're attacking us online. People are calling me a liar, calling you a fraud. What do we do?" I froze. This wasn't my call. It was meant for another line, another nurse. But I stayed silent, listening. Troy's voice came through, sharp and cold. "Listen to me, Noah. We stick to the story. Your mother is mentally unstable. She's obsessed with you. She's doing this because she can't accept that you've moved on." Noah's voice was thick with tears. "But what if people find out the truth?" "There is no truth except the one we tell," Troy snapped. "You think I built this brand by being soft?" We double down. We make her the villain. We cry on camera if we have to. Do you understand me? But Dad, do you understand me, Noah? A long pause. Then quietly, yes. I stood there holding the phone, my hand shaking. Then I pressed the record button on my phone and held it up to the receiver. I captured every word. When the call ended, I saved. The file backed it up to 3 different locations and sent it to Simone Torres without a subject line. She replied in 2 minutes. Can we make this public? I typed back one word. Yes. Simone posted the audio file the next morning with a simple headline. In his own words, Troy Hale plans to frame ex-wife as unstable. The recording played automatically when you opened the page. Troy's voice filled speakers across thousands of devices. We make her the villain. We cry on camera if we have to. The internet exploded. Comment sections became war zones. So the son mocked his mom on stage and the dad is manipulating him? This is sick. That poor woman. Troy Hale is a sociopath. Noah's social media follower count dropped from 12,000 to 9,000 in 6 hours. Sponsors who'd partnered with Troy's podcast started quietly pulling their ads. The men's grooming company that used Noah's name issued a statement. We no longer have a relationship with Troy Hale or his affiliated accounts. By evening, Troy posted a tearful video. He was sitting in dim lighting, his face drawn, his voice breaking. This has been incredibly difficult, he said. Family conflict is painful. I've made mistakes. We all have. But I believe in forgiveness, in healing, in moving forward together. The comments weren't buying it. Too little, too late. You got caught. Where's your apology to your ex-wife? I watched the video once, then I closed my laptop and went to bed. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. Noah's school announced an ethics review 2 days later. The email was formal and brief. Due to concerns regarding misrepresentation of scholarship eligibility and character references, the administration will be conducting a review of Noah Hale's academic standing and scholarship status. A decision will be made within 14 days. I read the email 3 times. Then my phone rang. It was Noah. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mom. His voice was small, younger than I'd heard it in years. They're reviewing my scholarship. They might take it away. They're saying I misrepresented who funded it, that I lied on my application about Dad's involvement. I sat down on my couch. Did you? Silence. Then, quietly, Dad told me what to write. He said it would look better if I said he founded the program. He said it would help me get in. And you didn't question it? I was 17, Mom. I just wanted him to be proud of me. My chest tightened. Noah, do you have any idea what you've done? His voice cracked. They're destroying my future. The college is reconsidering my acceptance. People are calling me a fraud. I can't go anywhere without someone recognizing me. I closed my eyes. You did this to yourself. Please, Mom, you have to help me fix this. I sat there in the silence, listening to my son beg, and for the first time, I didn't feel sorry for him. Noah showed up at my apartment 3 days later. He didn't call first. He just knocked on the door at 8 in the morning, still wearing the same clothes from the day before, his eyes red and swollen. I opened the door and we stared at each other. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. He walked into the living room and collapsed onto the couch, his head in his hands. They're taking away my scholarship. The school board met yesterday. They said I violated the code of conduct by misrepresenting my family's charitable involvement. My college is reconsidering my acceptance. I might lose everything. I sat down in the chair across from him. You lied, Noah. You stood on that stage and humiliated me. You went on your father's podcast and called me controlling. You let him use my work to build his fake reputation. What did you think would happen? He looked up at me with desperate eyes. You ruined me. I leaned forward. No. You ruined yourself. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. He was quiet for a long time. Then, in a voice so small I almost didn't hear it. What do I do now? I pulled out my phone and opened the folder of evidence. You tell the truth. Not the version your father scripted. The real truth. You record a video explaining what happened, how he manipulated you, how you went along with it because you wanted his approval. You own what you did. They'll destroy me. They're already destroying you, I said. The only question is whether you go down as a liar or as someone who had the courage to admit they were wrong. Noah recorded the video in my living room. No script, no edits, just him sitting on the couch talking directly into the camera. His voice shook. His hands trembled. But he told the truth. My dad told me to humiliate my mom. He said it would make me look independent, that people would respect me more if I distanced myself from her. I believed him because I wanted him to be proud of me. I wanted to be the son he wanted. He described the podcast, the staged interviews, the fake scholarship story. He admitted lying on his college application. He admitted mocking me at the banquet because Troy had encouraged it, had coached him on what to say. My mom gave up everything for me, he said, his voice breaking. She worked 2 jobs so I could go to private school. She sacrificed her own life so I could have opportunities, and I repaid her by making her a joke. The video ended with him looking directly into the camera. I'm sorry, Mom. I don't know if you can ever forgive me, but I needed to say it anyway. He posted it at 9 that night. By morning, it had been viewed 400,000 times. The comments were mixed. Some people praised his honesty. Others called him a coward for only speaking up when he got caught. But the narrative had shifted. People weren't just angry at Troy anymore. They were seeing the whole picture. And in that picture, I was no longer the villain. Troy hired a lawyer. He sent me a cease and desist letter claiming defamation, emotional distress, and interference with his business relationships. The letter demanded I retract all statements, delete any recordings, and issue a public apology. I forwarded it to Simone Torres, who forwarded it to her own lawyer. 3 days later, Troy received a response. Your client's threats are baseless. The recordings in question were made legally and published in the public interest. If Mr. Hale proceeds with litigation, we will countersue for harassment and abuse of process. Troy didn't sue. Instead, he doubled down. He posted long rants on social media about cancel culture and trial by internet. He appeared on a fringe podcast claiming he was the victim of a coordinated smear campaign led by his vindictive ex-wife. But the damage was done. His follower count continued to drop. His podcast sponsors never returned. The articles that once praised him were now archived and replaced with exposés. And Noah's video kept spreading, reaching new audiences every day. People started reaching out to me. Other single mothers who'd been erased by manipulative ex-husbands. Other women who'd sacrificed everything and been repaid with cruelty. They sent me messages thanking me for standing up, for refusing to stay silent, for proving that the truth could win. I read every single message, and I cried. Not from sadness this time, from relief. The court hearing was brief and brutal. Troy had filed for an emergency injunction to stop the publication of defamatory materials. His lawyer argued that the recordings violated his privacy and damaged his reputation. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Victoria Moss who'd taken my case pro bono after hearing my story, stood up and pressed play on the audio recording. Troy's voice filled the courtroom. We make her the villain. We cry on camera if we have to. Do you understand me? The judge listened without expression. When the recording ended, she looked at Troy. Mr. Hale, you're asking this court to suppress evidence of your own admitted manipulation? Troy's lawyer stammered. Your Honor, That conversation was private. It was also damning, the judge interrupted. She denied the injunction, ruled that the recordings were legally obtained and published in the public interest, and then did something I didn't expect. She referred Troy's case to the district attorney's office for potential fraud investigation related to the scholarship fund misrepresentation. Noah was sitting in the back of the courtroom. When the judge made her ruling, he buried his face in his hands. Troy walked out without looking at either of us. I left through the side door and stood in the parking lot, letting the cool air fill my lungs. It was over. Really over. Troy's business collapsed within weeks. The podcast was deleted after the hosting platform received thousands of complaints. His social media accounts went dormant. The men's grooming company not only pulled their sponsorship but issued a public statement condemning manipulative and unethical behavior. Noah lost his scholarship. His college acceptance was rescinded pending further review. He moved out of Troy's apartment and into a friend's basement, working part-time at a coffee shop while trying to figure out his next steps. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate his suffering. But I also didn't rush to save him. For the first time in his life, Noah was experiencing real consequences, and I wasn't there to cushion the fall. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened at the hospital. My supervisor called me into her office again, but this time her expression was different. "Lydia, the board reviewed your case. They want to promote you to head of community outreach. They were impressed by your composure throughout everything that happened, and they've seen the positive attention your charity work has been getting online." I stared at her. "Promote me?" She smiled. "You built something real, Lydia. You helped people without asking for credit. That's the kind of integrity we want leading our programs." I accepted the position 2 days later. I started a community mentorship program for single mothers. We met twice a month at the hospital's community center, sharing resources, offering support, helping each other navigate the impossible balance of work and parenting and survival. The local news picked up the story. They interviewed me for a segment called Women Who Stand Tall. The reporter asked me what I'd learned from everything that happened. I thought for a long moment. "I learned that silence protects the wrong people," I said. "I learned that truth doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. And I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is let them face the consequences of their own choices." The segment aired on a Tuesday evening. By Wednesday morning, I'd received over 300 emails from women sharing their own stories. Stories of manipulation, erasure, gaslighting, sacrifice, repaid with cruelty. I read every single one, and I answered as many as I could. 2 weeks later, Noah sent me a message. "Mom, I saw the news segment. I'm proud of you. Can I help with the program?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, "You can start by volunteering. No special treatment. You'll work just like everyone else. If you prove you're serious, we'll talk." He showed up the next Saturday morning and stayed for 4 hours, helping set up chairs and serving coffee and listening to women tell their stories without trying to make himself the center of attention. It was a start. 1 year later, Noah and I stood side by side at a charity event for the mentorship program. We'd raised enough money to expand to 3 more locations across the state. Noah had enrolled in community college and was studying social work. He'd cut off contact with Troy completely after his father tried to monetize his redemption arc for a new podcast. We were posing for a photo when Noah turned to me. "I used to think you embarrassed me," he said quietly. "I thought being seen with you made me look weak. Now I just want to make you proud." I looked at my son, really looked at him. He was thinner now, his eyes less confident but more honest. He'd lost the arrogance that Troy had fed him, the cruelty that came from thinking he was better than the woman who raised him. He was still learning, still growing, but he was trying. "You're getting there," I said. The photographer called for our attention. We turned toward the camera and smiled. Not a perfect smile, not a staged smile, just a real one. Later that night, someone asked me if I regretted exposing Troy and Noah the way I did. I thought about the question carefully. The best revenge wasn't exposing him, I said finally. It was reminding the world, and my son, who I truly am. Not the villain he painted. Not the embarrassment he claimed. Just me, Lydia Hale, a mother who refused to disappear.